Boeing has jumped into that game again, trying to design a solar plane that could stay up for years at a time, which could be used as a substitute for a low Earth orbiting satellite. Now, this story has been reappearing over and over again with balloons, solar airplanes, manned dirigibles, you name it. It's a hot tech right now. But Boeing's new design seems to have a chance at being a really low Earth orbit replacement for satellites. Now, this type of system gets past those huge costs of backhauls for terrestrial-based towers that we see with things like Project Loon and the like, and instead it uses a very relatively inexpensive aircraft that can stay up for months at a time to deliver the same kind of service with a higher reliability than satellites. Now, could this beat Facebook and Google Loon to the market with a UAV that actually brings high-speed wireless to a world regardless of where our backhauls may be? Cheebert, let me throw this open to you first. This again, is one of these stories that we hear from time to time. Facebook is doing it. Google is doing it. Microsoft is experimenting with it. We've even got startups that are trying to deliver this sort of terrestrial, upper terrestrial, low orbit internet to city blocks. Is this just another entry, or is this something slightly different?
Keep in mind, Boeing has one of the longest track records of high-flying aircraft. They actually, when Lockheed kind of went away, it went into Boeing. A bunch of their engineers went to Boeing. And I should point out that one of the key people actually worked on the U-2. Now, keep in mind, the U-2 is very much a glider. It just happens to have a jet engine on it. So having this kind of pedigree, I personally think that Boeing's got a good chance at making this work. And I should point out, while everybody wants to compare this to low Earth orbit satellites, the real comparison is actually geosynchronous, because you only need one circling over a large metropolitan area to cover the entire metropolitan area. So it's dramatically cheaper than having low Earth orbit satellites, because those have to be a constellation like the Iridium satellite, because they're moving so fast, they circle in and out of the area. So you have to have this crisscross pattern going all the time. So having something that can stay up for months at a time, they've actually tried it with Zeppelins, the military has, and it just didn't quite work as well. But having an autonomous system that can stay up there without having to change out pilots, now that's something that might actually work, and we'll see if Boeing actually can make use of the talent that they've stolen from the Lockheed Skunk Works.
I want to throw some of the financial issues over to Curtis in just a bit, but Cheebert, I want to stay with you to talk a bit more about tech, because one of the questions I hear every time one of these systems is announced, and I'm thinking of, Google did their super high frequency test out in the Nevada desert. They've got Project Loon, which is running. In fact, we saw that at Google I/O. Very cool piece of technology, by the way. And then you've got Facebook's little circling whatever those might be over in Africa. Why is it so difficult to have something stay in one place? It seems as if this should be something that we've licked by now. But as you mentioned, even when we have low Earth orbiting satellites, we have to use a constellation because you have to hand off signal from satellite to satellite to satellite. What is the major technical challenge of making something like this work?
It's, moving parts. Just look at the solar plane that stopped in Hawaii and then started flying around the world. It had some problems. In fact, on the leg coming over from Asia to Hawaii, the battery is overheated. Because remember, this guy's not going to have sunlight all the time, even if you get high enough. So the problem is going to be you got to have batteries. So we're still working out some of the bugs, and that's why I'm not willing to say, yes, this is absolutely going to work. But if you can see in the diagram on the screen, it gives us something very low to the earth comparatively. And because it's lower, we use less energy. We don't have to store as much energy. It's gotten better on the type of technology, used for the structural and for the electrical and hopefully storage. And who knows? That's why I'm not willing to say this is definitely going to happen, but this is something that's got real possibility. And if it's up high enough, we start getting away from a lot of the weather that has been the problem with traditional solar powered airplanes. And because it's can go so high and no pilots, we don't have to worry about oxygen. Well, it could get really, really interesting. And I, for one, am going to watch this very closely.